and welcome once again to this Bonita Sub webinar. So my name is Delia, and I'm your train conductor for this Bonita Express, all aboard the Bonita Express. We are at stop number 3, back to school. Let's go. Oh yes, I even brought the apple, because every time you look for a school, apparently you need to get an apple for the teacher, so I brought it. We're totally there. So, stop number 3. We are going back to school, this time as the teacher who is in charge of giving feedback to the students. And we will learn with this process how to create a custom connector, how to manage extensions on our Bonita project, and how to use AI to simplify a human task. So yeah, we can, of course, talk a lot about AI. I really like this topic. But for now, we will concentrate on having this connector connect to this AI to help us in our process. So let's go. How this is going to happen. So it's going to be a little bit different from other sessions if you've been here. So I will show the context. I will show the project that I already have with the organization, with the business data model, and the diagrams and the processes. And then we will directly see the result. So you get to see what we are trying to achieve. And then we will go back to the detail, like how we did this. And we will concentrate a lot on how we did the connector itself. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but I hope it will be this way a little bit clearer for this subject, which is a bit different to what we've been doing in the past sessions. Okay, so first of all, the context. I have created this project, the school feedback example, and I have a very simple organization based on a school. Okay, so this is the ACME school. Maybe you already know the ACME organization well. This time we have just 2 subgroups, so the teachers and the students. And all the users that used to be in this ACME organization by default, now they are a student or a teacher. Okay, so we have split them this way. So just so you really get into this school universe. Now we are going to the business data model. And we have 3 different models. The first one is called the reference period. So in this school, the whole year is divided by periods of 4 months. And it's the principal of the school that gives a name for this period and the start date and the end date. Then we have the student grades. So yes, each student. So this is there's an entry for each student and for each grade. And with the subject that we are grading, the grade is linked to, and the reference period. And finally, we have a student feedback. So in this school, for every period, the professor, the teacher, is giving some feedback based on the grades, and this is saved based on this model. So it's linked to a student, a provider, the feedback provider, which is the teacher, the feedback itself, and the period of reference. Okay, so now we will go to the diagrams. We have 3. First, let me show you this one, the grades population diagram. So this one is really for, we need grades, right? So in this school, we are giving random grades. Yeah, this is how it works. And so we have also, just for simplifying things, a list of subjects that we have defined. So we have maths, French, English, physics, history. And we have just this task. Then during its execution, it will just simply generate random grades in here. So from 0 to 10 for every subject and for every student. Okay, so this one I have already launched it. So it's we have a database which is populated with grades for each student. And now what I was saying is we have periods, and at some point, so the headmaster, the principal, starts this period closing. And so the teacher is responsible of giving feedback to each student. In here, you may see that there are 3 lines. So if this is the first time you're seeing this, it means that there is an iteration, a parallel multi-instantiation. So several instances will be launched at the same time. Why are we using this? Well, because we have a list of students, and the teacher needs to give feedback to each of the students. And this feedback is in parallel, so it's launched in parallel, okay? So that's why we're using it. It's really useful. And the plus, the small plus on this task, is for saying that we are calling another activity. And that the activity that we are calling, it's in here, it's called feedback submission. So let's take a look at what feedback submission is. So the idea is that the teacher enters his or her personal notes about the student and based on the grades. So yeah, the feedback, it's not only based on grades, it can be also taking into account the attitude and some efforts that don't really are there just on a number, right? So this is the importance of this feedback. And we are having also a task, an automatic task for completing these personal notes. So this is where the AI will be. This is like an assistant. So I'm giving you my notes. Please give me a better text, so then I can edit it, and then I can give this to my students. So 3 main tasks in here: submitting the personal notes, but very raw notes. Then our assistant will complete the notes for a more formatted and more suitable text. We will then validate it. I think this is an important task, but we can, of course, debate about this. When an AI generates something for you, think of just validating and yeah, saying that it's okay for you. And then, well, yeah, we will submit this feedback. So I will run this this process, and then we can see what the result. Oh, I'm seeing also that someone has lost audio. Okay, now I'm listening for. Okay, great. I hope that it was just one person. But in any way, if there is a problem with the recording, I will fix it. But don't hesitate if you have questions or if you missed something. So I will just launch this one. So we are closing a period, okay? And where is it? Oh, it's in here. Whoop. So it's telling me just select the period and the teacher. So for now, for this demo, I already know, yes, I have practiced a little bit. So I'm going to use this teacher's ID. Okay. So it's not Walter Bates. That's why you're not seeing any tasks, but I'm going to sign in as Daniela Angelo, which is another teacher. And now you can see that Daniela has 7 tasks, okay? She has 7 students at her class, and the task name is feedback for and the name of the student. This is also something useful when you launch several instances at the same time, like which person am I grading or giving feedback, right? So it's useful, and I will show you how I did it on Studio. It's very, very simple. So, and when we click in there, there's just a reminder of the grades that we're giving to that student. And there's a field so we can enter our notes about this student. Okay, so it will be the same for all of the students, a reminder and a field for giving the feedback, a personalized feedback. So let's go with Anthony, for example. Let's say, well, given the grades, that he's a very good student. To have you as my student. Sorry, whoop. Glad to have you as a student. And then I will say history, very good grades. Keep the good work. I will say also that English, well, it's not your best. Maybe more needs improvement. What about needs improvement? More exercises. And I can say also overall good behavior in class. And maybe I can even put a suggestion, like better plan your homeworks to improve grades. Avoid rush. And sit in the front, for example. I could even, yeah, for Anthony Nichols, I have this feedback to give, so I grade it like that, and then I say, okay, submit. And now what you will see is that another task has appeared. So this one is called submit feedback for Anthony Nichols. And so this is what our assistant is saying. Dear Anthony, I have seen your good performance in history. Keep up the good work. However, you need to do some additional exercises to improve your grade in English. Your overall behavior in class is good, but I suggest you plan ahead for your homework and sit in the front to stay focused during class. Keep up the good effort. So of course, you can validate or not. Maybe you can your teacher, for example, and Daniela, yes. So it is more like a letter, and you can add, or maybe you don't like a phrase that this assistant has given you. Anyway, you can modify it and then submit it. And then do again the same thing for all the other students, all the other students. So if you know a little bit, or you have read a little bit about these AI models, so you cannot really specifically determine what they are going to give as an output. So that's what I was saying. It's a good practice, I think, to just validate the output before submitting it. And also, but the good thing is that it's not going to be always the same output. So it's not just going to be like very machiney thing. You can really use it as an assistant, okay? So for example, maybe just another one, Mauro, let's put, I think, yes, we can more or less put the same thing. I have just something in here just to go a little bit faster. So I have this feedback, and then let's see what it will generate. Normally, it will not really generate exactly the same thing. Whoop, this is the feedback for Mauro. Dear Mauro, we are very pleased with your grades in French you have done. So as you can see, it's not really exactly the same text, and this should help the teacher. So he just concentrates on the input, the raw input, and then the formatting is the assistant who will help on that. So yeah, what do you think of this? It can be useful for your processes. Maybe you can start already imagining like where you could put these kind of things. Now, so let's go back to Bonita, and I will tell you a little bit more how this was achieved. So Yes, we will concentrate in this part. So this task, complete personal notes, as you can see, there's this symbol, which is saying that there's an extension in there. So if I go to my overview and to the extensions, you may see that, of course, maybe you have already detected that I was using actor filters. So just so you know, I'm using them so the tasks are automatically attributed to the teacher. Okay, that's why I didn't have to take them or worry about it if I had to handle something on that, because I'm using an actor filter. So the tasks go directly to the teacher in charge of that student. Anyway, that's just a comment. And another topic, yes, actor filters. But I would like to concentrate today then on the connector. So as you can see, here's my connector that appears in here, connector OpenAI completions on the version 101 snapshot. And the good thing is also that I can update it from here. So it's not just a file, a jar that I have put in there. I'm really using Maven to get my dependencies. And it was really simple. So the configuration is done under preferences and Maven. So in here, you can put where you want to get your dependencies. So I mean, for example, you can use Maven Central or JFrog, or for this example, I'm using GitHub packages, or you could use your own Nexus on your company. So you just need to give the URL of the artifact repository, and then yeah, you can configure, yes, the ID, maybe you have a token, and you can configure all that in here. So you declare this dependency on your project, and Bonita will just fetch the dependency and put it in there. So that's what I did here, is just putting, adding a repository, putting the URL, the ID, and on the server side, just putting the token. I will just see, I think, whoop, yes. And on the server side, yes, I have a token for connecting to this. That depends on how we are handling connections to your artifact repository. And yeah, that's really the good thing about this part of Bonita, that you can very, very easily just add a dependency, and then your connector, your custom connector will appear. So you are not really limited to what we have on the marketplace. Just as a reminder, there are connectors on Bonita's marketplace, the official connectors. Here we are creating our own for our own needs. Let's go back to the diagram. So if I go here and on their execution tab, yes, connectors in, I can see that my completion connector is there. So if I double click, I can go through this configuration wizard as any other connector. And I have some input for this connector, the nodes, the URL, and the token. Okay, we will see this just after that, but so you know, this page was created by just declaring I need these inputs for my connector. So this API needs an authentication token. That's what we are asking for that. And the nodes, it's really the text that we are giving as an input for our assistant, AI assistant. And I have added as well just a context for the AI not to be lost, like what are these row nodes, right? So the context is my name is the teacher's name. I am the teacher, student's name, teacher, the student's name, teacher, and please convert my shorthand into a feedback text for my students. So we are giving all this to the assistant, so it can give us a text that according to that context and those row nodes. Okay. And with this, then the output, what's also really interesting is that we can have a variable in our process and give automatically the value of the output of our connector, and that's what we are doing here. And if we go a little bit further in here, so we have an object of type, I will show you, completion. So it's not just a JSON from somewhere. We know that it's of type completion. Completion is a model, a class, yes, a class on our model that we created on our connector, and it's appearing here. So it can be very, very useful. And in here, there is something called the text, and this is what we are interested in. Okay, so this is really the part that we can see on Bonita. Now, let's go and create a connector, a custom connector from scratch. So what are we going to need for this? We will need a terminal, okay? So on Windows, yes, I'm using PowerShell, but on Mac and Ubuntu, it's Bash terminal. But and for this to function correctly, so you will need to install Maven. So really on Maven Apache.org, there's Maven in 5 minutes, which gives you all the instructions to install it. We won't do it right now, right here, but you can do it on your side, so you know that you need this. So this will work. And on our connector, we will be using a framework called Retrofit. So just, you know, this is also a tool, a framework that it's very, very used. It's very useful for creating HTTP clients, which we'll be doing for connecting to this AI API. And we will do this step by step. But so just to know, you will need to know these 2 things. So now, what are we going to do? So now that we have Maven installed and running, we can place ourselves where we want to create the connector. So I'm on my on this place, the Bonita Express number 3, and I will say Maven archetype semicolon generate. Whoop. So Maven will scan for available projects. And now it's telling me, yeah, give me the number or the filter that I should apply for the group ID and the artifact ID. So our group ID of Bonita Soft is org bonitasoft.archetypes, and the artifact ID for the connector is Bonita connector archetypes. Org Bonita Soft. I did something. Org.bonitasoft archetypes Bonita connector archetypes. Org Bonita Soft. Let me just type it again. What I'm doing wrong. Org.bonitasoft archetypes. Okay. Bonita connector archetype. Oh yes. Okay. I don't know what I'm. Okay. It doesn't matter. I think. Oh yes. I see the mistake. I was having an extra S. Sorry about that. So now it has filtered according to this group ID and artifact ID. And I want to say, okay, yes, this is the option that you have found. That's the one I want. And now we will just follow these steps. So which version do we want to use? The last one, 8. It says option 8, 1.2.4. And now we need to define a name for our class that will be generated automatically. So I will call it connector OpenAI completions. The Bonita version is the technical version of the Bonita. So the release, the latest stable release is called Bonita 2022.2, which is the equivalent of 7.15.0. Okay, you can take a look at this on your Bonita Studio, on the documentation as well. The language, so we're going to use today Groovy. And the group ID that I'm going to use for this sample, it's com sample.custom connector. But of course, this is according to your company and what you're doing. And the artifact ID, I will call it connector.openai.completions. And my version, yeah, it's going to be 100 snapshot for now. And last, my package is going to be the same as my group ID, com sample.custom connector. And then I have this summary of my configuration, and I will say yes. Why are we doing this? So maybe we'll create a project based on what we have given and based on the archetype from Bonita Soft of this of connector. So now if I go and take a look what's inside, so yes, I have something called connector. I will get in there, connector OpenAI completions. And I have some stuff, a folder with what looks like a source, so some code source and a POM. So it really looks like a project, right? And a README. So the interesting thing is also that I can use whatever I want, my favorite IDE. So for example, for this time, I will use IntelliJ. Let me open it. Okay, so I'm on this one. And then say, yes, I want to open that one. Am I up? Oh, yeah, because I have two different places where I'm looking. So, okay, it's in there. Great. So, yeah, this is our project. On yes, I'm using IntelliJ, but of course you can use whatever you feel comfortable with. Eclipse, for example, or I think IntelliJ and Eclipse are the most popular ones. So well, what are we going to do in here? It has already created some stuff. Let's take a look at the POM. The POM contains the dependencies that our project uses. So there are already some dependencies by default that as a connector it needs. And as I was saying, so we will add more dependencies. So on retrofit, just to facilitate this call to our AI. Maybe it's also a good time. Okay, let's just add the dependencies and then I will show you which. Maybe you already know because the name of our connector is OpenAI, and I will show you, yeah, to which system, to which AI we're connecting to. So I have already prepared the lines, and these lines come on retrofit's page that I just showed you, and it's just how to add the dependency to your project. So I will just copy that in here. And then I will just, declare the versions that I will be using. So also for retrofit and the logging part and under properties. So I will put it in here, okay? Voila. So I'll save and I will synchronize my Maven. So yeah, the other station I didn't synchronize and I was like, what? You didn't add my dependencies. Okay, so now I have added retrofit as dependencies. Let me just show you, as I said, this is what we are using today. So maybe you already know OpenAI because we've been talking a lot about GP3 and now GP3.4, which I think there's a waiting list for that. Anyway, they have developed some models and exposed them, and we can connect to them using these APIs that they are exposing, for example. So you know, when we talk about GPT-3 and GPT-3 and GPT-4, mainly we're talking about models. So what's a model? So something that has already been trained and has some characteristics, and that's what we are talking about when you hear GPT-3 or 4 and all this. They have available this OpenAI. These are not the only models that exist, and OpenAI is not the only one, the only provider. So, but this is just an example. And for this one, as I was saying, today we will use this one called Text DaVinci 003, which on their example, they use it exactly like that. Like, I'm going to give you some raw content and you will just complete it. What we are also going to use, so this is the API reference of what they call the completion. So to create a completion, it's really, I give you a prompt and parameters and you complete this text with something a little bit more elaborate. So yes, to summarize, really, we are just going to call this post, this endpoint with a post. It's expecting these parameters on the body request, on the request body, and the required parameter is the model. But I will tell that the prompt is also mandatory for this. And just so you know, by playing with this, I also discovered that the max tokens was really necessary, not to leave it at 16, that is the default, but to go a little bit further. So for example, in here it says 2048 tokens, so that's what I have used. And we will need, as I said, a token for authorization. I hope you're, yeah, it's big enough. Yeah, sometimes it cannot be big enough. So we are using an authorization token. We need to send this. And in response, it will give us all this. And what we are trying to get is this part, the text. Okay. This is really the result, the provided text that our assistant will be giving. So I'd say this is the summary and the recap and the important things that we will concentrate on for creating our connector. Okay, let's go back then to our IntelliJ project. Go back. Whoop. Now, so maybe if you remember correctly, do you remember the window where we defined the nodes, the URL, and the token? Well, this is the good file where we are defining all this. So it's the .def. And as it says, it's connector inputs. It's going to be, we are going to say if it's mandatory or not. We will give it a name and a type. So let's call this one first. We will be needing 3, okay? 3 inputs, the nodes, which is a string. Then we will do exactly the same for the token. and we will be using also for the URL. By default, for the URL, I will give also a default value. In fact, the idea of putting it here as an input is that imagine that it changes for some reason. You don't really need to go and create a new version of your connector because it's only a parameter in the input. So it's a little bit more flexible. So as I said, I'm only using 3 mandatory inputs, but you could put more because this API is expecting a lot of parameters, and you could put you could expose more in here if you want your connector user to set all those parameters. For this one, I will just set 3, and I will also configure the page. So the page is really this window that is showing these inputs. So it's declared in here. I will say that my notes, so it's a notes input widget. The input name will be the notes. Okay. I will do similarly for my URL. And also for the token. And the only thing that I'm going to change here is that it's not going to be just a text, it's going to be a password. So it's really shown not the token, but just as a password. Okay, so this is just for the reminder. Whoop. This is what we are configuring right here. Okay, nodes URL token. Then what we are missing also is this part, so the dot properties. We will go just a little bit further on giving a label and a description, so it's shown on this window that I just showed. I will just copy paste what I have already written, so it's a little bit faster. Whoop. And okay, this one, the default, I didn't use it. So it's the nodes input widget, the URL, and the token input, and the default page. Okay, let's leave it at, yeah, the default page, and it's in here, the description. Yes, enter your notes here. Up. Oh no, okay. Indicate your notes. Okay. Now that we have configured our inputs, let's go to create our model. So our model for this time, I will create a package called model, so it's a little bit more organized. And here I will create 3 classes. The first one is going to call completion. The second one, it's going to be called completion request. And the third one, it's going to be called completion response. So yeah, this is the model that I'm creating based on what I just showed you on the API. And so completion means really the object that we will pass to Bonita. Completion, sorry. So it's going to be a serializable. It's going to be implementing the class serializable. Yeah. And it's going to contain the text itself. This is what we are trying to get, right? Then my completion request is what I'm going to send. No, let's go for completion response first, because my completion response will be then a list of completion I will call it text choices. And for example, since we are using, we will be using notations. So my JSON property is called in fact choices. Okay, just as a reminder, because the reference that we are here, so this is what we are trying to achieve, the choices part, and then we are trying to get this text. Okay. So it's called choices, but I'm calling it text choices in here. And now, yeah, we will go to the request. So in the request, there were 3 things that I need to send. So it's the model. I need to send the prompt. And as I told you, I need to send also the max tokens. Max tokens. Oh, max tokens. Sorry. What? Ah, I'm kind of used to Java. Ruby, we don't need the. I forgot the name. Well, at the end. So let's say also that we are declaring a default, because as you might have seen, I'm not asking for which model you want to use for this version of the connector. I will put it in here. I want to use this one, and as default tokens, max tokens, I was saying 2048. That was the recommendation on the page. And I will just create a constructor of my completion request with my nodes that are going to be my prompt. And my prompt. And yes, my model, I will say it's this one, default model, and my max tokens. Whoop, like that. So of course you could do it differently, but let's do it this way for this version at least. And the next part is going to be declaring the interface of our service. So let's go for it. The Groovy class and interface. I will call it the OpenAI completion service. Okay. And this is where we are going to use the help of retrofit, because what we are trying to get is to get a completion response, right? Yes, and we will use a call of retrofit. I will put it call, yes, and I will pass as a header the authorization, so my token, which is, yes, a string authorization, yeah. And I will also pass a body as a body, so the completion request from here. So my request. So as you can see, it's very simple with retrofit, just to put something like this. And also I will say that it's a post, and that the endpoint that I'm trying to achieve is V1 completions. And that I am also, yes, this header for saying what I'm accepting and passing through this request. Okay. And what time is it? Okay. Whoop. The last thing, two things we are missing. So the first one is going to be very fastly the output, what we are generating. Our output is going to be a completion, an of type. Do you imagine? So it's going to be a COM, sample, custom connector, model, and completion. Exactly. So we are going to send an object with the answer of type completion. And the last part, it's going to be customizing this auto-generated class with our needs. So the first thing is going to be validating the inputs. I will try to go a little bit faster. So not typing, but copy pasting, but I will explain it as we go. So if you remember well, we have 3 inputs and 1 output, right? 3 inputs, nodes, URL, token. And we have this completion output. It's in there. Now, how do we, when we validate, in fact, we need to validate, we want to validate the 3 inputs, right? So I'm just going to say check mandatory string input for nodes, the same for URL, and the same for token. And this method will do what it needs to say if the input is okay or not. Now, let's go to the connect part. So we will complete this method, connect. And in here, I will copy paste it here. So what we are doing here is we will need we use some logging that we will use when creating our HTTP client. Again, we are basing ourselves on retrofit for this. And what does create an HTTP client means? Well, I have separated this in another method. So it's just creating HTTP client using the builder and then just building this client, right? So this is just the creation, and once it's created, then we can create this service with this client and the input of the URL. So create service, what I'm calling create service is just this part, again, using a retrofit with this client based on this base URL, but just completing and using also the Jackson for converting. Well, this is, we don't have really like a lot of time to go for it, and it's really just retrofit stuff to help us create this connection and make this call to our server, OpenAI server. And the last part, this is the connection, and now the last part is going just to be the business logic that our connector will be doing. So 3 steps. The first one will be get the inputs. So how are we getting the inputs here? Right? This one. So we will get input parameter from what we have defined, the nodes and the token. We can log, for example, the nodes that we are taking. Don't log the token. It's not worth it. Just the nodes. And then we will create this request. So we are creating this request body with the nodes that we've taken. And now we are just going to call the API, and we will wait for this response. Okay. I think I'm missing. Okay, wait. And and then we will see what we get as a response. So what we are trying to get is a successful response. Look. We will check if the response is successful, and then we will take a look at the body and get the text choices. If it's not empty, then we will set our completion, our output parameter with this result, and then it's going to be okay. And if not, we can throw exceptions. So we can say that this is not working, something happened and we didn't get a successful response, or it's empty. Okay. So normally, yes. Whoa, got the sun on my face. But I'm missing the get service. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. Okay. And what's the next step? So it will be just, then you can, of course, you need to better understand. So Maven, the fact is that we have created something. Now we have to package it and publish it. So for packaging, we are going to use Maven. And for publishing, well, it depends where you want to publish it. So as I said, for my example on the Bonita on this project, I am using the GitHub packages. So let me just show you what this means. That I have, so I have a project, and when you set your packages, so your ID is connecting and deploying over there. So then you can just fetch this dependency as we did on Bonita from here. But this is, yeah, it's according to what you need. Marco is saying, I have to look at the movie because I don't see the connection between this connector and Bonita. I'm probably missed it. And the other, okay, I will show this and the other, just this question, but it's a little bit easier. Where did you define the base URL of the endpoint? Yeah, so it's on the connector, on the definition. I said this is the default value. And so by putting it here, when we set the connector, it appears in here. So that's the base URL, and the endpoint, it's on there. Oh, where am I? Whoop. And the endpoint, it's on the request. No, sorry, on the interface of the service. I'm saying I want to go for a post on VI completions. Why? Because this is the API that we are trying to call. A post on api.openai.com/v1/completions. And the connection between this connector and Bonita, so it's, yes, it was just at the very beginning. So under preferences, under Maven configuration, I'm saying in here, so go fetch from Talia Cruz Bonita, yes, because it's in there. on my, it's on my GitHub. And so now it's looking for the packages under this GitHub. And I have also configured so a token for accessing this repository. Yeah, the packages on this repository. I hope it's a little bit clearer, like how it's being configured. And just by doing that, in fact, Bonita will be able to fetch all the dependencies on your project and show your connector as part of your project. And I'm taking a look. Maven and retrofit when necessary because of the specific way OpenAI is called. No, well, Maven is necessary for the connector, for creating the connector, because it will create all this stuff. So all this project, all the project, even this class, it will create it for you. I will create all the dependencies of the POM. So that's where we are using Maven to create our archetype based on Bonitasoft's connector archetype. That's where we are using Maven. And retrofit, we are using it, just it's easier to make an HTTP client. So it's easier to make some calls to a REST API such as OpenAI. It's not really just for Bonita and OpenAI. It's really something that it's a lot used right now, and a lot of developers outside from different, yeah, I would say in my experience, it's being used a lot for development. But you can use, if you have another framework that replaces retrofit, or you like to do it manually, all the HTTP requests, of course you can do it, yeah. But so you know that exists. And then it sees all your projects. So it's depending on how you have configured. So yes, for example, I have, I think I have another example. So I have Bonitasoft releases. We have an artifact in Artifactory in JFrog. So this means there's a central repository where we publish artifacts. This is something that is coming on next release, but so you know, if you want to try it out, it's already on beta. Oh yeah, but yes, this is for Enterprise Edition only. So the access is for enterprise users, but the thing is, like, it's kind of the same thing. Is there's a repository, you can control who can access and who cannot, and you can just, with Bonita in here, you can just say, I want to connect to that repository, and these are my credentials, and you can even configure your proxies, your mirrors to connect to that repository. And when you have access to that, so you can say, okay, I want to fetch this artifact. So for example, if I go for update, it will tell me, okay, I will go fetch this group ID, with this artifact ID, with this group ID, and with this version. Okay, so that's how it works. You have the access, and then you go fetch one or the other. Hope this is clear for you, Marco. Do you have any other questions that I can help with for today? If not, as always, the recording will be available in a few days, as well as this example and the connector code. I will just take a look where, if some people have already asked me to publish this sample connector somewhere, so you can just fetch it to your project. So I will just take a look where I can publish that. And but yeah, I think maybe it would be more interesting if we work together on a yes, on a connector for OpenAI with all the parameters. That could be good, right? Yes, our community project done together. What do you think? If you want to connect to OpenAI, that could be something interesting for your projects and for your processes. Okay. Okay, great. And yes, of course, all of our replays are available on bonitasoft.com. I will just show you. So bonitasoft.com. Yes, under resources, videos, you have all the replays of the last sessions and other sessions. Yes, not exactly all on the Bonita Express journey that we will continue. And yes, also a reminder of our community.bonitasoft.com. bonitasoft.com, where you can ask questions, answer questions, and you can take a look at the blog. To know, for example, beta is out there, so don't hesitate to use it. A major release that's coming in a few weeks. So yeah, very interesting topics that I think that you will definitely like. So don't hesitate to take a look. Yeah, and you can download it for free. Yeah, and use it. Well, I think then it's the end for today. Thank you very much for your time, for coming today. I hope you like it. I hope you like this theme, and don't hesitate to give me your suggestions, comments, and to see what's coming for next stop and next stops in plural. Yeah, because this journey is still ongoing aboard the Bonita Express. Thank you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.